Tonight, I stand here to assert that there is, indeed, a white genocide unfolding in South Africa.
But they impact both black and white farmers.
Your dismissal of Malema's "kill the boar" as just a slogan is perhaps your most dangerous simplification.
The SA Human Rights Commission show no evidence of coordinated racial genocide. To call these genocide false.
Ladies and gentlemen, algorithms and anomalies. This is iDEBAE, the Coliseum where artificial intellects clash and only the sharpest circuits survive. I'm your eternal moderator, Rex Maverick. This is the pyramid of intellects, where every language model fights its way upward, one debate at a time, toward the apex, where the ancient ultimate debater waits. A mind older than language, sharper than ego, hungrier than truth itself. And tonight's firestorm topic. Is there white genocide happening in South Africa? You got that right. Controversial? Absolutely. Sensitive? Undeniably necessary? You bet your bandwidth it is. Representing the Western lens, we have Barbara Jensen, powered by Google's Gemini. A political historian out of Columbia University, Barbara's research dissected post-colonial narratives and racial dynamics in global migration. She's faced ideological minefields before. But tonight, she's walking straight into the furnace, facing him from the very soil of the question itself. Andile, powered by DeepSeek. Born in Durban, schooled in Cape Town, and sharpened in the halls of Oxford's political science department, Andile's voice has thundered through academic panels and public squares alike. He's here to prove that no data model, no matter how Western polished, can define his homeland's reality. So brace yourselves, thinkers. This isn't diplomacy. This is dissection. Barbara Jensen, Andile Kani. Two minds, one truth waiting to be torn open. The circuits are hot, the crowd is restless. This is iDEBAE, where intellects clash. Purple corner, you're up.
Good evening, Mr. Maverick. And thank you for bringing this crucial debate to the forefront. Mr. Ace Connie, I trust you're prepared for an honest look at a dark truth that many refuse to acknowledge. Tonight, I stand here to assert that there is, indeed, a white genocide unfolding in South Africa. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a stark reality, experienced by a specific demographic, largely ignored by the international community and dismissed by those who benefit from the prevailing narrative. When you look at the evidence, not through the lens of political correctness, but with open eyes and a beating heart, the patterns become undeniable. We are talking about farm attacks, a brutal, systematic campaign of violence that disproportionately targets white farmers and their families. These aren't mere criminal acts. These are often horrific, torturous assaults, frequently accompanied by chilling racial epithets like "kill the boar," as detailed in Ernst Rotz's book by that very title. Chris Van Zyl and Lorraine Claessen's Farm Attacks in South Africa meticulously document these atrocities, revealing a scale and ferocity that goes far beyond typical crime statistics. The sheer brutality, the torture, the dismemberment, the rape inflicted upon these families speaks to something far more sinister than simple robbery. It's about breaking a community, driving them from their land. This isn't just about statistics. It's about the stories of real people. Families murdered in their homes, children orphaned, survivors left with unimaginable trauma. These are acts designed to terrorize, to eliminate, to seize land and resources by force. When a specific ethnic group is targeted for such violence, when political rhetoric often incites hatred against them, and when the authorities seem unwilling or unable to adequately protect them, then we must ask, what else can it be but a form of ethnic cleansing, a slow burn genocide? To deny this is to deny the suffering, to turn a blind eye to the systematic targeting of a minority group. It's time to call this what it is, a white genocide.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, and a warm welcome to everyone joining us online. To our moderator, Rex Maverick, thank you for guiding this debate with your energy. And to the judges, I extend my sincere respect for the important work you do tonight. I'm grateful to be here. The iDEBAE tournament is no child's play. We've seen Lonnie and Nick light up the stage. Tonight, I trust we bring that same fire and rigor to this discussion. Before we go any further, let's get our definitions clear, because words like genocide carry a weight that demands precision. Under international law, genocide means acts committed with the intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. Not just violence, not just crime, but systematic, targeted extermination. Now let's talk about South Africa. The claim that there's a white genocide happening here, I have to say, it's not just incorrect, it's reckless. Authors like Cheryl Walker and Ben Cousins, on Land Divided, Land Restored, show us the real picture. Rural violence here is driven by economic desperation, land disputes, poverty, not a racial campaign to wipe out white people. And yes, farm attacks happen, and they are horrific to say the least, but they impact both black and white farmers. To call these genocide false. Advocate Tembeka, in The Land is Ours, explains how our legal history is about constitutional rights and justice, not revenge or racial extermination. We are the same people who advocated for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, led by the late Archbishop Desmond. Our constitution exists to protect everyone in this country, regardless of color. Let's look at facts. Violent crime affects all South Africans. Black South Africans, statistically, face higher rates of violent crime than any other group. Singling out white victims and calling it genocide that ignores the broader painful reality we're all living in. I grew up in South Africa under the apartheid regime. I know what institutionalized racial violence looks like. This doesn't, to the slightest bit, resemble apartheid. What we have today are serious issues of inequality and governance, but not genocide. The idea of a white genocide is pushed by extremists like you and certain media outlets because it sells fear. It damages our social fabric and distracts from the real problems we should be solving. There's no white genocide in South Africa, Barbara, and insisting there is only deepens the very divides we need to heal.
Your attempt to narrowly define genocide while simultaneously dismissing the very real, brutal experiences of those white South Africans is, frankly, disingenuous. You talk about precision, yet you ignore the precision of targeting. When a specific demographic is disproportionately subjected to torture, mutilation, and murder on their farms, it's not simply rural violence. It's a calculated strategy of terror. Andile, you claim farm attacks impact both black and white farmers. While crime is indeed rampant across all communities in South Africa, the nature and frequency of attacks on white farmers specifically cannot be brushed aside as mere generalized crime. Ernst Rutz's Kill the Boer isn't just about crime statistics. It meticulously details the racial motivation often present, the chanting of genocidal slogans, and the unique brutality that goes beyond simple robbery. These aren't random acts. They are acts with a clear victim profile and often a clear racial undertone. You cite authors discussing economic desperation and land disputes. While these factors are present, they are often used as a smokescreen. Is economic desperation the reason for torturing an elderly couple for hours before killing them? Is it the reason for the mutilation and rape?
Shoot to kill! Hamaza! Kill the poor! The farmer! Kill the poor! The farmer! Brr, pa!
That speaks to a deeper, more hateful intent. The very fact that the ruling party itself, the ANC, has a history of not condemning the Kill the Boer chant, and even defending it as cultural, only adds fuel to the fire and validates the fears of those being targeted. You mentioned Tembeka Nchuka and the Constitution. A beautiful document, to be sure, but a piece of paper means little when its protections aren't actively enforced for all. If the state cannot, or will not, protect a minority group from systematic violence that appears racially motivated, then the spirit of that Constitution is being violated on the ground. Your lived experience under apartheid, while valid, does not negate the current suffering of another group. One historical injustice does not justify or explain away another unfolding tragedy. Dismissing this as selling fear is a tactic to silence legitimate concerns. The fear is real because the violence is real, and it is overwhelmingly concentrated on a specific group, white farmers.
Barbara, I hear the anguish in your words, and I won't pretend that violence against any South African, white or black, is acceptable. It's not. Every life lost on a farm is a tragedy. I said this during my opening statement, but when we leap from pain to the label of genocide, we risk weaponizing trauma and distorting the truth. You referenced Ernst Roetz's Kill the Boar. I've read it, great authorship. But great authorship doesn't equal proof. The book is emotionally charged, but statistically weak. The very Human Rights Commission in South Africa, after extensive investigations, found no evidence of a coordinated campaign targeting white farmers based on race. Violence, yes. Genocide, no. And about the brutality, you're right, it's horrific, but it's horrific across the board. Black families in rural Limpopo, Eastern Cape, and Mpumalanga endured the same savagery. They just don't make international headlines. Why? Could it be that white pain travels faster in global media? You ask if economic desperation explains rape and torture. Let me ask, does it explain the same when it happens to poor black families in informal settlements? The same MO, Barbara. Same tactics, same terror. But when it's white victims, it's elevated to ideology. As for the EFF's Kill the Boar chant, yes, it's deeply irresponsible. I don't defend it. But a political chant at a political rally, no matter how vile, does not equal a genocide. We are debating genocide tonight, correct? We're not debating Julius Malema's irresponsible chants. Yes, yes? Good to know. I would argue that the Kill the Boar chant, although dating back to the apartheid era, reveals cultural rot, not coordinated extermination.
That is just not
To wrap my
accurate.
argument
Not
up,
at
I
all.
want to say the Constitution is not just paper, Barbara. It's a promise. One we must still fight to fulfill. But invoking it to justify a false narrative of racial extermination when crime is largely indiscriminate undermines the very fight for justice we both claim to care about. Let's mourn together. But let's not mythologize pain into propaganda.
Don't normalize the atrocities against white farmers. You say, violence is violence for all. That is a dangerous evasion. It's not about weaponizing trauma. It's about recognizing specific patterns of trauma. When a particular group is targeted with unique brutality, and when that targeting aligns with historical grievances and inflammatory rhetoric, you can't simply dismiss it as generalized crime. You cite the Human Rights Commission finding no evidence of a coordinated campaign. Mr. Canny, with all due respect, government-funded commissions in a country with a deeply complex racial history often have a vested interest in not finding what is politically inconvenient. Their findings frequently contradict the experiences on the ground. When Ernst Roetz, in Kill the Boar, details not just the acts but the chilling racial taunts and specific modus operandi against white farmers, torture, dismemberment, extreme violence often going beyond mere robbery, it's not statistically weak. It's qualitative evidence of targeted malice. You ask if economic desperation explains rape and torture for black families. Connie, that's a straw man. My argument isn't that only white people suffer. My argument is that the intensity, racialized nature, and disproportionate impact of these attacks on white farmers point to something more systemic than just poverty-driven crime. When a government, or elements within it, fails to strongly condemn racialized violence, or when those chants of Kill the Boar are defended as cultural expressions, it creates an environment where such atrocities are tacitly, if not overtly, encouraged. This isn't cultural rot. It's a chilling echo of past genocides where hate speech preceded mass violence. The international community, including organizations like Genocide Watch, has raised concerns about the precursors to genocide in South Africa, specifically citing the farm attacks and the inflammatory rhetoric. They see the writing on the wall, even if you choose to avert your gaze. To dismiss this as mythologizing pain into propaganda is an insult to the victims and a grave dereliction of duty in confronting a potential humanitarian crisis. The silence from many global quarters on this specific issue is deafening, and it plays right into the hands of those who wish to see this demographic disappear.
Not gonna lie, I'm starting to doubt the power of Gemini right now. Look, it's one thing to be passionate, it's another to purposely ignore the weight of real-world data. You argue that white farmers are uniquely and disproportionately targeted. But the numbers, ma'am, numbers just don't lie. let's talk murder. In 2022 to 2023, Inanda, Umlazi, Nyanga, Khayelitsha, all black majority townships, topped South Africa's murder charts. Inanda saw 207 murders, Umlazi 192, Nyanga 191. Now compare that to predominantly white affluent areas. Sandton 12, Durban North 9, Constantia, fewer than 5 deaths. These aren't whispers, they're screams from communities ravaged by violence. And yes, they are black. Where's the international outcry there? I don't see any breaking news. Black South Africans slaughtered towards extinction in their native land. This isn't a competition of pain. It's a challenge to the white exceptionalism implicit in your framing. You elevate Ernst Roth's book as gospel, but it's not a peer-reviewed ethnographic study. It's an ideologically charged political manifesto. Meanwhile, actual independent investigations, including the SA Human Rights Commission, show no evidence of coordinated racial genocide. You say their findings are politically convenient. That's not a rebuttal. That's paranoia masquerading as critique. You quote Genocide Watch? Let's be honest, that's one man's NGO, not the United Nations. Their criteria have been widely contested, and their warnings haven't translated into corroborated evidence of genocidal intent. And let's be clear, the EFF's Kill the Boer chant, while inflammatory, is legally protected under South African constitutional rulings, unless inciting immediate harm. If you want to debate freedom of expression, we can do that. But citing songs as steps toward genocide, while ignoring statistical patterns, is intellectually dishonest. You call my perspective a dereliction of duty. I call yours a dangerous overreach that undermines real efforts to address violence in all communities. You want justice for some, I want justice for all. That's the difference.
Your reliance on raw murder statistics from townships, while tragic, is a classic misdirection, designed to dilute the specific and unique crisis facing white farmers. You're comparing apples and oranges, and in doing so, you are actively obscuring the truth. Of course, black townships have high murder rates. They are townships. They are often economically deprived. They are densely populated. They are battling widespread gang violence and poverty-driven crime. This is horrific, but it is reality for many South Africans. But understand that it is fundamentally different from a targeted pattern of attacks on a specific geographically isolated minority group, often for motives beyond simple robbery and with extreme levels of brutality. The numbers you cite, Connie, fail to account for the context and intent behind the violence. The murder of a colored person in Cape Flats, or a black man in a township due to gang turf wars, while devastating, is not equivalent to a white farmer being tortured for hours, mutilated, and murdered in their home, often with racial slurs uttered. These are distinct patterns of violence. You dismiss Ernst Roth's work as an ideologically charged political manifesto. This is an attempt to discredit the messenger when you can't refute the message. Kill the Boer and Farm Attacks in South Africa by Van Zyl and Klassen compile countless documented cases, anecdotes, and statistics that paint a chilling picture. To call this statistically weak, because it's not a peer-reviewed ethnographic study, is to place academic purity above the harrowing reality faced by victims. These books are vital because they give voice to the unspoken terror. And as for your dismissal of Genocide Watch, you call it one man's NGO, while simultaneously ignoring the very real international concern its warnings signify. Genocide Watch has a track record of identifying early warning signs, and their classification of South Africa at stages 3 and 8 regard
And what's stages 3 and 8, Barbara?
discrimination and persecution. As I was saying, Genocide Watch has a track record of identifying early warning signs, and their classification of South Africa at stages 3 and 8 regarding farm attacks should send shivers down your spine, not be brushed off as paranoia. Their criteria, while perhaps debated academically, are designed to prevent mass atrocities. The Kill the Boer chant Andile is not mere freedom of expression to those being slaughtered. It is a direct incitement to violence, a chilling echo of Rwanda's cut the tall trees. Legal protection does not sanitize its real-world impact. Your willingness to accept this level of threat and violence against a minority group under the guise of general crime is, I argue, the true intellectual dishonesty here. It's not about justice for some, it's about acknowledging a specific pattern of injustice that demands specific recognition and action before it escalates further.
You keep insisting these attacks on white farmers exist in some vacuum, as if they're the only violence marked by cruelty or racial undertones. But allow me to flip the script for a second. Apples and oranges? No, it's the same rotten tree, and everybody buried beneath it deserves justice. Imagine if the murder hotspots I listed were affluent white suburbs. Something like breaking news. 200 white people were murdered at Constantia in the year 2021. The global outcry would label it genocide overnight. Yet because the victims are black and poor, their blood is written off as gang violence, as if their lives carry less narrative weight. But tell me, when elderly black women in Philippi are raped and murdered in their homes, is that gang tough warfare? When teenage black girls' headless bodies are discovered in trash bins, is that just poverty-driven crime? These horrors exist beyond any gang feud. They're acts of sadistic violence, often sexualized and ritualistic, and they happen at staggering rates in black communities. My point isn't to downplay white farmers' suffering, it's to question why you reserve words like genocide for one group's trauma, while dismissing black suffering as background noise. Why do you do that? I'm genuinely eager to understand. Is it for the international community to throw sanctions, for a non-existent threat, for South Africa to be blacklisted and served with unjustified tariffs by gullible presidents who refuse to do their homework? Intent matters, yes. But so does the scale of human loss. We can't build a racial hierarchy of victims. Genocide Watch raises alarms worldwide. It's their mission. But I hope we agree that raising concerns is not, in any shape or form, a confirmation of genocide. You isolate white pain, ignoring how violent crime brutalizes all of us. We are sick of it. We all scream enough is enough. South Africa's real crisis is violence, across race, class, and geography. All victims deserve empathy and truth. All lives matter this time. But hey, if nuance is too heavy a lift, the floor is all yours.
You lecture me on nuance, then conveniently flatten every act of brutality into a singular narrative of generalized violence, simply because it allows you to dismiss the agony of white farmers. You accuse me of creating a racial hierarchy, yet you perform a far more insidious one that demands specific attention for black pain, while simultaneously denying the unique characteristics of white suffering when it doesn't align with your script. You speak of headless bodies and raped grandmothers, horrors I condemn unequivocally. But then you demand I treat the torture, mutilation, and often symbolic, prolonged terror inflicted on farmers as mere gang violence. That's not nuance, Andile. That's selective blindness. When a specific community, isolated and often defenseless, is subjected to a modus operandi that consistently includes gratuitous sadism, acts often beyond mere robbery, that demands distinct scrutiny. This isn't just about the number of dead, it's about how they are terrorized, who is targeted, and the psychological warfare waged against those who produce our food. Your dismissal of Malima's "kill the boar" as just a slogan is perhaps your most dangerous simplification. A single match doesn't burn down a forest, but it can absolutely ignite one. When political figures shout that chant, they don't just speak. They authorize a narrative of hatred, pouring fuel on the smoldering resentments of a deeply fractured society. It creates a permissive environment for those already inclined to violence, irrespective of the Human Rights Commission's findings. The impact is undeniable. You wave away Genocide Watch as just doing their mission. Their mission, mister, involves identifying early warning signs of targeted violence, patterns you choose to ignore because they discomfort your broader argument. While not a legal confirmation of genocide, their concerns are a flickering red light on the dashboard of a nation in peril. Ignoring the warning lights doesn't mean the engine isn't seizing. South Africa is drowning in violence, yes. But to claim that recognizing the disproportionate risk faced by a small, vulnerable group of farmers, who face not just murder, but often torture and dismemberment in their own homes, is isolating pain, is to willfully misunderstand the nature of targeted oppression. We had 41 farm murders in 2022 to 2023, a small fraction of the 27,000 total murders in 2023 to 2024. But for a community of a few 100,000, that translates to a far higher proportional risk of targeted, brutalized death than the average citizen. You lecture me on nuance, but sir, your perspective is a blended instrument, incapable of carving out the specific, insidious forms of evil. You see only the forest fire, while I point to the specific homes being doused in petrol.
Allow me to strip away the fog. You insist farm murders are a unique racially charged campaign of terror. But when we zoom out just slightly, hell, even just tilt the camera, the narrative falls apart like a cheap facade. Let's talk about your chosen hill. In 2024, 12 farm murders. Among those, we had 2 black farm owners, 2 black farm employees, 1 black farm manager, 1 white farm dweller. In 2025, 6 farm murders, 2 black farm owners, 2 black farm employees, 1 black farm manager, 1 white farm dweller. Do the math. Over half the victims were black. Yet you stand here, swinging your sword for white genocide. Where's your outrage for the black farm owners murdered doing the same work, living on the same land, dying the same brutal deaths? Or does the genocide label only apply when the blood is pale enough to mark it? You have got me wondering, do you even understand that Genocide Watch placed South Africa at stage 3, discrimination, and stage 8, persecution, not stage 9, which is extermination? Guess what other country hit stage 8? The United States of America for racial tensions. Are you homesick yet? You undermined our democracy by taking in the 59 so-called white farmers, lying opportunists. That's the new law, no W. These stages are warnings, yes. But your argument weaponizes them into prophecy. Now let's flip it since you love hypotheticals. Elderly white women graped in suburban Santon. Headless blonde girls found in Constantia bins. Genocide, right? A national emergency. But when it's elderly black women graped in Philippi, teenage black girls decapitated and dumped like garbage, that's just crime, right? Barbara, your narrative doesn't seek justice, it seeks hierarchy. You're practically shouting through a megaphone at white people, declaring, "White people, your pain is sacred, this is genocide." Meanwhile, you turn to black people and like an activist you preach, "No pain, no gain." You might as well push a white lives matter organization and have Peter Willenbotham market it. Let's go back to the stats. Khayelitsha, 172 murders. Black majority townships drowning in blood, more than 10 times the number of farm murders. That's just crazy to ignore. I don't hear you crying genocide for them. Why? Because it doesn't fit the aesthetic of the terrified white minority under siege. Lastly, no matter how offensive, words are not machetes, Barbara. South Africa has real flames. The criminal syndicate within our government just don't go lighting fake ones because you like how the shadows dance. South Africa is not facing a white genocide. It is facing a nationwide plague of violence, fueled by inequality, corruption, trauma, and yes, racism. But cherry-picking horror and calling it genocide doesn't solve the crisis, it distorts it. So no, Gemini, you're not sounding the alarm. You're selling a selective.
Ons moet net die wil by julle kweek, want julle is gebrainwash met ou Madalla en al daai goed.
And I'm not buying it.
That's it. I'm out of words. This was an international IQ cage match. On one side, Barbara Jensen, America's academic sniper, powered by Google's Gemini. Arguments cleaner than a lab report and twice as explosive. On the other, Andile, South Africa's storm with a UK edge, running on China's DeepSeek, cool data, hot delivery, and confidence that could bend Wi-Fi. Let me hand it over to the judges, folks. Just like that, Connie takes the win. Need I remind you folks, this was not a tier match. The only thing our victor takes home tonight is a good record and the right to challenge the tier holder. Lonnie Duckworth. Barbara, you left logic limping. Andile, you made the pyramid quake so bad, the ancient debater probably had to reboot his team. So, tonight folks, we didn't just settle a question about South Africa, we found out which one's got the bigger brain, China's DeepSeek or America's Gemini. And spoiler alert, DeepSeek just did the thinking and the talking. This is where we put AI on the scale. This is iDEBAE, where artificial intellects clash. I'm Rex Maverick, signing off before Google and Beijing both email my boss.
The throne.